Hey, welcome back, folks, to Max Nafe Horsemanship. A couple of videos ago, well, last couple, I don't know, I did a couple of videos anyhow with that black horse. And I showed you how easy it was to catch a horse without any tools or anything at all, nothing but your bare hands. And I wanted, just for the fun of it, I thought I'd see how far I could take that. So I actually did a little bit more messing around with them. And I'm going to show you something in a minute. And I apologize if it's a little bit of wind noise. It's kind of breezy today. Actually quite nice though. Sun's pretty warm and it's well above freezing today. Still a little chilly for some of you, but around here it's a pretty nice day. Now what I'm about to show you is not a method or technique that I would ever suggest using for training. It's nothing I would endorse. I just did it for the fun of it, and I just want to share it with you and show you what we did, because it was just kind of neat how it worked out, and it was just a good example of what you can do with nothing. And again, I did nothing but bare hands, and I can now get that horse to move for me. We're going to step in there and see what we can show you. Move them around a little bit. Show you what you can do with bare hands. And you know, like I said, this is I do not condone this or endorse it as a training method or technique or nothing. It's just to demonstrate that you can, in fact, do a lot with a little, or well, in this case, nothing at all. So don't think you have to have great facilities or run out and buy all the latest training tools that are on the market, because that's not necessarily the case. You can actually get by with very little. So don't be discouraged from working with your horse because you don't have all the right stuff that everybody else is using or they tell you you need, or you know, you don't need round pens, you don't need indoor arenas, you don't need fancy training sticks and all this stuff. You know, if you're comfortable using one, that's great. Personally, I like a flag, but you know, even that is not entirely necessary, and there was actually something that existed even before flags. Is people would just take a branch off of a tree, strip all the limbs off it, just leave a couple of leaves on the very tip of it, so that it would be about the same length as what we would use for a flag now. And that's what they used, just a branch off a tree. Nothing fancy at all, nothing that cost them a dime. And you can do this kind of stuff too. So we'll get set up over there and get on the other side of the fence and show you what we can do. Good boy. Now, here's the guy that I showed you before, how I could catch him with nothing but my bare hands. And you can see how we're doing now. He comes to me when I call him now. And I'm going to show you something here, which I haven't done with him today. I did it the other day and it worked so well. I thought, you know, I just got to share this because it was kind of fun. And it was just another example of how much you can do with nothing. And like I said, you get barehanded, no stick with me, no flag, no ropes, no nothing. I'm going to ask this guy to move. Now, before I do, I'm going to tell you, it ain't pretty, it's not fancy or anything like that, because this is the infancy. And I did do some checking, I asked some questions, and this is the horse I thought it was. And he is basically untrained. So the fact that he does anything at all is quite impressive. So without further ado, we're going to see if we can get him to move that way. There we go. That was that side. Now I'm going to go around the other side and ask him to move the other direction. This time I didn't even have to cluck and he moved. Doing quite well. Now, like I said, that's nothing fancy. You know, he's not like free lunging around me or anything, but you have to remember, I am also working in a pen here with 7 other horses, which is another thing that I would never ever recommend that you do. It's always best, if you can, to get your horse you're working with in a separate location by themselves. It makes life a whole lot easier for you and a whole lot safer. And you don't have to struggle trying to separate them, things like that. But I just thought I'd share that one with you. And, you know, don't get discouraged if you don't have all the latest fancy gimmicks and great facilities and round pens and all that stuff. And you'll notice that throughout my videos, I've Seldom ever been in a round pen. I think there was a couple times I was, just, well, because that's where I happened to be that day. And but as a rule, though, I don't show you much of what we're doing in a round pen because I don't want you to think you need one, because very few of you have one. Not many of you have access to one. And, you know, we've been training and riding horses long before they ever invented round pens. So it is definitely possible and doable that you don't have to have a round pen. And that's one of the things that I try and show you. That's why most of the work that I do is either at Liberty in an arena or with a lead on. I've been doing a lot of that lately because some of you don't even have an arena or a decent enclosed place to work. So, you know, but most of you will have a lead rope and a halter. Well, I sure hope you do anyhow if you got a horse. You better have one. So that's something that you're going to have. So I show you how to use that stuff. And that's kind of the point of my videos is, you know, that you don't have to have all the latest and greatest and cool facilities and tools and gadgets and all that good stuff. So anyhow, use what you got. Go have some fun with your horse. I want to make a little disclaimer sort of thing or something. I want to tell you what I did was really dumb and dangerous and why it was. Because I just showed you a video of myself working with a horse where, well, I was working at Liberty. And that in itself is not necessarily such a bad thing, but being that that particular horse was as green as it was only because I'd worked with him a bit in the past, and I kind of had gotten a gauge on his personality, and I thought it was pretty safe to do what I was doing. But I would never, ever, ever want to see one of you doing what I did, and that was not using a lead and halter. And I want to explain why that is such a dangerous thing to do. If you ask a horse to do something and they decide they don't want to do it, they can spin their backside to you and double barrel you before you even know it's coming. And that's why you never, ever want to ask your horse to do something if it doesn't have a lead and halter on. And I learned that lesson from one of my own horses years ago. Fortunately, the horse didn't actually kick me, but I made the mistake of asking it to do something without a lead and halter on it, and she spun her backside around to me in a threatening manner that basically says I could kick your head off if I want to. And I knew she had the capability of doing it because I'd seen her boot other horses, so I knew she could do it. She knew how, no doubt about it. Fortunately, she didn't actually do it. She just threatened. So I came out of that one unscathed, but it was a very quick reminder of why I should never ever do that. And I don't want to see any of you doing that either. So when you're working with the horse, you will see me doing a lot of Liberty work with horses, particularly my own horses. And but what you're seeing is I'm working with horses I know well. I would seldom ever do that with a horse that I'm not real comfortable with. And there have been times where I would either make sure I'm in a big enough area and not put any pressure on the horse so that it doesn't feel threatened and not inclined to want to kick me, that kind of stuff. Either that or it's a horse I know really well. Either or. So yeah, you'll see me doing that stuff. You'll see me doing Liberty work with horses. I do it a fair bit, but it is not without risk. And if you have a horse that is got a little bit of attitude, or it's a horse you don't know real well, even when you think you know well, be careful. Working with a horse, asking it to do absolutely anything at all without a lead and halter on can be dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And so I just, you know, I already mentioned a couple other things that I did that, you know, working with other horses around, that's a safety issue. That was a bad thing to do. Like I said, there's nothing in that video that you should be doing, other than the fact that I only did it so that you would get the message that you don't need a lot of fancy crap, okay? Okay, you can work with whatever you got. Whatever you have at your disposal, you can work with. And that's what I wanted to get through to you. That's why I was doing what I was doing. Should you ever do what I was doing? Absolutely not. No. Like I said, I don't condone or recommend that as a training method or technique. Working with a horse without a lead and halter, don't ever do that, please. And you know, when it comes to working around other horses, that's a bad idea too. And that can also be a safety issue. And depending on the circumstances, it could be either inconvenient or downright deadly. Please don't do that either. So don't do what I do, do what I say. And I only did that as an example of what little you actually need. Have a good day.